Okay, we're going to go ahead and call our December 1st, 2020 meeting of the Lake County Board of Supervisors to order. In tradition, we'll go ahead and stand for a moment of silence. Do we have any dedications today for moments of silence for the board? We'll go ahead and stand for a moment of silence. Supervisor Sabatier, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Yes. Ready? Begin. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, do we have any, item number 4, do we have any extra items that are not appearing on the posted agenda today? See any, but I will ask the question. Okay. Hearing none. Go ahead and move to number 5. Number 5 is approval of the consent agenda. Consent agenda is usually non-controversial. Are there any items that need to be pulled from the board, from the consent agenda? All right. I know we had a request from admin to pull item, and I get this correct, Carol, is item 5.5. We'll be pulling that item.
This is Jake. Carol
Yes.
is currently experiencing issues with her microphone.
Okay.
But, Mr. Chair, I will agree that 5.5 was the item to be pulled, just for clarification.
Yes. Yes, just for a clarification later on. So with that, we will go ahead and ask anyone from the public. Jake, can you open up the room? We'll see if anyone from public would like to pull an item from the consent agenda.
Yes, I've sent a unmute request out to the floor. If you'd like to make a comment, please unmute and state your first and last name.
Okay, Jake. Go close the room, bring it back to board chambers. Do we have anyone in board chambers that would like to pull an item from the consent agenda?
At this moment, we do not have anybody from the public in the board chambers.
Okay, thank you. Well, we'll go ahead and close that, and we'll bring it back to the board for action.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve items 5.1 through 5.4, 5.6 through 5.20. Yeah, 5.20.
Second.
Okay, motion and
Supervisor
Go ahead,
Sabatier,
Aye.
Supervisor Crandall,
Yes.
Supervisor Scott. Aye. Supervisor Brown
Yes.
and Supervisor Simon.
yes.
Thank you.
Okay, it sounds like Carol was having some issues with her microphone, so we don't want to set up and delay anything. I know that right off the bat we have, let's go to public input.
Mr. Chair, can you hear me now?
Oh, yes, we can hear you now, Carol.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm sorry about that.
Okay, well, now that you're back then, let's go ahead and take up item 5.5, which was pulled from the consent agenda. Carol, go ahead.
Yes, Mr. Chair, thank you. There's no change to what is being proposed. There was just a correction to the first 2 links that are on the second page of the protocol. The links took you to an earlier version of the state guidance on masking. And while you could get to the guidance intended to be attached, which was updated November 16th, it took 2 steps to get there. We have since fixed that, and I asked Johanna to upload a corrected version. Johanna, is the corrected version attached?
Yeah, I reposted yesterday, so it should be correct now.
Yeah, I see it.
So that's all I needed, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Okay, any questions from the board or comments? Okay, hearing none, we're going to go ahead and open it up to public comment. Jake, if you could please open the room.
All right. I've sent an unmute request out to the floor. If you'd like to make a comment, please unmute.
You know what, and I apologize, I was moving too quick there and working with the microphone. I need to read the item, and I do apologize for that. Item 5.5 is approve amendment to the County of Lake COVID-19 Public Health Emergency, Return to Work Site Protection Protocol. And that's what we're taking public comment on this time.
All right, should I continue now?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so I've sent, oops. All right, so I sent out another unmute request. If you'd like to make a comment, please unmute and state your first and last name.
All right, if you'd like to make public comment, this is your chance to do so on item 5.5. Okay, Jake, let's go ahead and close the room up, and we'll bring it back to the board for action. Supervisor Sabatier, do we still have no one in chambers at this point?
No one in the chambers.
Thank you. Okay, we'll bring it back to the board for action on item 5.5.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the amendment to the County of Lake COVID-19 Public Health Emergency Return to Work Site Protection Protocol.
Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Supervisor Scott.
Supervisor Sabatier?
Aye.
Supervisor Crandall?
Yes.
Supervisor Scott? Aye. Supervisor Brown?
Yes.
And Supervisor Simon?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to go ahead and move forward with our 6.1 item, public input. Did not see any forms filled out today on public input, but Jake, if we could go ahead and open up the room. If someone would like to make public comment or have public input.
All right,
Time
yeah.
to use now.
I've sent a request out. If you'd like to make a comment, please unmute and state your first and last name.
Okay, Jake, let's go ahead and close the room, bring it back. Close the room, we'll bring it back to the board. Looks like we're a little bit ahead of schedule here on our agenda. Okay, let's go ahead and see in the next couple of minutes here. We got about 2 minutes. Let's go ahead and just go to our calendars. Let's see if we can get those out of the way a little bit earlier today. So, Supervisor, let's start with Supervisor Sabatier.
So the end of the day today, just planning on having some conversations here in the courthouse with some of our department heads, just to make sure that some of the projects I'm working on are moving along. Working on the Christmas parade that's going to happen this Saturday, having some meetings over the course of the week just to finalize all of that. We'll be part of an EOC call in the morning on Thursday, CSAC call later on the afternoon on Thursday, and that's with the state just to get updates of what's happening. And we'll be attending virtually the Clear Lake City Council meeting that evening as well. On Friday, I will be taking some time to go and attend the Clear Lake Cyanobacteria and Cyanotoxin Task Force meeting, as well as meeting with CC4C, and that is all that I have on my calendar thus far, with the Middle Creek Project meeting the following Monday, and then meeting with our CAO to prepare for Tuesday the 8th meeting.
Okay, thank you, Supervisor. Supervisor Crandall?
Yes, so finish it after today's meeting. Tomorrow morning, I have a TID meeting at 8:30. Economic development at 10 a.m. On Thursday, I will be attending a class through the CSAC Institute from 9 to 1. And then Friday, be conducting another class through the CSAC Institute. Monday, Middle Creek Restoration, and then COVID recovery. I think that switched to weekly. I didn't make it yesterday, but
Yeah.
if I can make it tomorrow, I will. And then a CAO meeting next Monday at 3 following that meeting.
Thank you. Supervisor Scott?
This evening, I have a school board meeting at 6 o'clock with Lakeport Unified School District. Tomorrow, I have an 8:30 meeting with the Smart Start baby bundles through Hope Rising and First Five. At 11 o'clock, I'm hoping to do the first transport for Hope Center. They're hoping to open their doors tomorrow. There's still a couple boxes we have to click before we make that happen. So we're really hoping tomorrow is the day. In the afternoon, at 1 o'clock, I have a meeting with the Children's Council. On Thursday at 3, I have our COC meeting. I was thinking about on Friday attending the Cyanobacteria meeting if there wasn't more. I noticed we were all invited. So I see just one of us so far will be attending, so I might be attending that. It's just going to be one other supervisor. On Saturday, I have a meeting concerning the warming center and how that's going to be looking for this season. And then Monday, a SafeRx meeting at 10 o'clock in the morning and preparing for Tuesday's meeting.
Thank you, Supervisor Scott. Supervisor Brown?
Yeah, I don't have a whole lot scheduled, but I am working on putting together a meeting now that the holidays are over with staff and Supervisor-elect Pyska with folks at Bottle Rock Power, trying to determine what to do with that property through decommissioning and other things that they have planned up there. So I'll be trying to schedule that for sometime this week. And then we have, are you going to be around towards the end of the week, Bruno? Okay. We have our annual foster child toy drive that we're doing, and Bruno's been generous enough to help me with that, and then offered to carry on the tradition after this year. And so we've been getting piles of gifts already for the kids, and we're probably going to try to deliver those maybe Friday if that works for you.
Yep.
Okay.
We'll talk about it.
Okay. All right. And that's it for me. Thanks.
All right, thank you, Supervisor Brown. Okay, after the meeting today, obviously you have agenda review for myself. And then I do have some follow-up phone calls I need to make on some projects down here in South Lake County. Tomorrow, Wednesday, have the Economic Development Task Force meeting in the morning. In the afternoon, I do have on my calendar a search planning meeting. On Thursday, I have the South Deal committee meeting, which is on WebEx. And then I did have on the Cyanobacteria, but it sounds like Supervisor Crandall and Supervisor Scott will be attending that. And then on Monday, have the COVID recovery group meeting, and then back here on Tuesday for the board meeting. So, okay, thank you very much, supervisors. Now we'll continue on with our agenda here. So we are at our 6.2 item, our 9:10 a.m. item, presentation of a proclamation commending Jan Coppinger for her 12 years of service to the County of Lake.
I have that here.
Yeah,
Moke, if you want me to go ahead and.
absolutely, Supervisor Brown, if
Okay.
you would, we'd be
Yeah.
honored.
Thank you.
And Supervisor, just so you know, Jan Coppinger is here with us in Zoom.
Yeah, I sent her a text asking her if she was gonna come over, and she said she was gonna do it from Zoom, and I understand that, and I get it. We've done a lot of those through the year, but it's really unfortunate that that we're not able to appropriately, in my opinion, appropriately honor Jan, this amazing person that we've had the privilege of working with for the last several years. She's been just an amazing asset to our team, and a Zoom proclamation just is not even close to what she deserves, but it's the best that we can do right now. So I'm going to offer this on behalf of the Board of Supervisors, commending Jan Coppinger for her 12 years of service to the County of Lake. Whereas Jan Coppinger was hired as the Special District's fiscal officer on October 16th, 2008, where she excelled in managing over 27 different budgets and funds, as well as supervising and directing fiscal staff. And whereas on May 15th, 2013, Jan was promoted to the Utility Systems Compliance Coordinator, where she was responsible for the coordination of environmental and regulatory compliance for water and wastewater systems, funding, and construction activities. And during Jan's time as Utility Systems Compliance Coordinator, she played an instrumental role in securing 3 major drought grants. And whereas on July 6, 2016, the Lake County Board of Supervisors promoted Jan to Special Districts Administrator. As Administrator, she managed a multi-million-dollar budget, oversaw the operation of 9 water systems and 4 wastewater systems, serving over 30,000 customers in Lake County, and managed a staff of 45. And whereas throughout the course of her work, Jan has established many meaningful professional relationships with local tribal governments and worked to address their concerns as county capital projects were constructed. And whereas in 2015, after the devastating Valley Fire, Jan coordinated with local, state, and federal representatives to secure over $10 million in grant funding to install sewer system in the community of Anderson Springs, making it possible for fire survivors to rebuild on lots that would otherwise be unbuildable. And whereas, in addition, following the Valley Fire, Jan's efforts with FEMA led to the rebuilding of 2 water systems, Bonanza Springs and Starview, devastated during the fire in the community of Cobb. New water mains, services, meters, additional fire hydrants were installed during the reconstruction project. And whereas Jan has shown admirable commitment and dedication to the service of Lake County Special Districts, after more than 12 years of proud public service, Jan Coppinger will retire from the County of Lake Special Districts on December 1st, 2020. Now therefore be it proclaimed that on behalf of the Lake County Board of Supervisors, I hereby commend Jan Coppinger for her years of service to Lake County and wish her happiness in her retirement. Thank you, Jan.
Thank you, Rob. Jan, I see that you're on there. Would you like to say something? There you go. Excellent.
Yeah, I just want to thank you all. I have really, really loved my years working for the county. I've just, I can't say enough about how much I appreciate the support and the guidance I receive from the Board of Supervisors. And it's almost sad to leave. I'm excited, but I'm also very sad to leave all the good people. So just thank you all.
All right, Jan, thank you. I know there are plenty of folks on this line that do want to make comment, but what I want to do is see if the board, if any of the board members have comment at this time. Supervisor Sabatier?
Jan, thank you very much for all the work that you've done, especially post-fire work has just been absolutely amazing in ensuring that people have the ability to rebuild. I think one of the programs that you were a part of that was absolutely celebrated at our LAFCO meetings was the consolidation of all these water districts up in Cobb. It was insane to have, I think it was about 14 different water districts or something like that, if I remember correctly. I think only 10 of them consolidated. But that was a massive project, and you were absolutely a part of making that happen in dealing with the Cobb Area Water District and dealing with the state and dealing with other agencies to make that happen. Absolutely appreciate seeing you doing that project, and that was before my time here on the Board of Supervisors, and watching you from the perspective of Board of Supervisors. You've only continued to do that same level of work. I appreciate you for setting the bar at the level that you set, because now we have to keep meeting that bar, and I hope that we can do that as we keep moving forward. So thank you for your hard work. I've seen your personality shine. Your staff appreciates you, respects you, and that's exactly the kind of leader that we need in these important positions. So thank you for your dedication to the county, and thank you for your hard work, and I wish you the best for your retirement.
Thank you.
Supervisor Scott?
Jan, I really appreciated working with you. And I will have to say, not only have you helped our community be able to rebuild, but you've helped us be able to build with your ability to upgrade our facilities so we can lift those moratoriums. I don't think the community fully understands how important that is to Lake County to be able to have these empty lots, be able to have homes on them. So I've really appreciated working with you. You are one person that if there is money to be found to bring to this community to upgrade our facilities, you find it. So you definitely have some big shoes to fill, and enjoy your retirement, but you definitely will be missed here.
Thank you.
Supervisor Crandall?
Yes, well, Jan, it's time, and we've been wondering how we're going to go about this, and we have a path now. But one thing I can say that definitely I appreciate, and I've always kind of known this about you, is your willingness to just tell us the real deal. And not only that, but when we have issues with different folks that have complaints, we get it all on the table, and they have to. They would just learn that, hey, this is the way it is, but, here's a path, and they would have to come forward with it. But you were always very supportive of your staff, because there would be a lot of times when the consumer would be trying to point fingers or whatever, and kind of, games here and there. And I just love the way you handled it. And it's something that I know a lot of us appreciate, and backing your employees, and also just keeping it real, so I hope you enjoy your retirement, and you'll be greatly missed.
Thank you, EJ.
And Jan, I'll just finish up with, just saying that I've appreciated the 4 years I've had to serve with you, to see your tenacity before I came on the board with the rebuild project in Anderson Springs and the consolidation that happened up on Cobb. It was a pleasure to watch. So I just want to say thank you very much for everything that you've done. You are going to be missed. I know hopefully we will be running across each other after you get some time off, and I know you're going to get bored, because that's the type of person you are. You're a hardworking, dedicated individual, and I just want to thank you for all the years of dedication to Lake County and its citizens, because you're one of the hardest workers around. So thank you very much. And I greatly appreciated my time to serve with you.
Thank you, Moak. Thank you all.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and open this up, because I know we have other folks that would like to say some kind words. So we're going to go ahead and start with our sheriff, Brian Martin.
Good morning. Thank you so much. I had the privilege of working with Jan during several emergencies, both fires and floods over the years. And I got to tell you, Jan, I really appreciate your candor, your hard work, your ability to cooperate and to get things done. Working in the EOC, there's a lot of people on this call that have worked in the EOC, and everybody knows how difficult it is to work in those situations under some really difficult circumstances. And to get stuff done, we had people that had to embody a spirit and a work ethic, and Jan definitely did. Jan wasn't afraid to say what needed to be said, and sometimes it made people uncomfortable, but I got to tell you, those difficult things sometimes need to be said, even if they make people uncomfortable, and that's what Jan did. I appreciated that very much. I valued that. I thank you, Jan. I enjoyed working with you. I respect what you did, and I hope you have the best retirement ever. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian.
Okay, Jake, did you open it up there?
No, I didn't open up the entire room, but I will send a request out right now. So if you'd like to make a comment, please unmute and state your first and last name.
Jan, I'm going to jump in. Scott DeLeon, Public Works Director, and I just want to say thank you so much for all the years working together. Brian mentioned the work in the EOC, and you and I worked together on a number of emergencies, and you were always there, and always I always appreciated working with you, and I'll echo everything that Brian said. I really admire how you made things real. You said the things that needed to be said, and you did it in a professional and straightforward way. And I really admire everything that you've accomplished, and just want to say thanks for all the years working together, and enjoy your retirement.
Thanks, Scott.
Okay, I see Denise, go ahead.
Hi, thank you, Chair Simon. Jan, I ditto everything that everybody else has already said. We've spent a lot of hours in the EOC together, working different tables, but for the same goal. And you've always been honest and hardworking and caring for this community and this county. So it's just been a pleasure to work with you. And thank you for your department's assistance through COVID and the sewer testing and all the input that you guys have given. Really appreciate working with you for the last 12 years. Thank you. Hope you enjoy your retirement.
Thank you, Denise.
Jan, this is Carol. I also want to wish you the best in your retirement. I mean, everybody has said some fantastic things. I echo all of those. The thing I wanted to point out is how incredibly responsive you are. If I reach out to you, you almost always just answer your phone. And if you don't, I hear from you within just moments. So your accessibility as a department head is extraordinary and appreciated. Best to you.
Thank you.
Okay, Scott, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to echo kind of what everyone else has said. You've been an inspiration, Jan. Working for you has been challenging at times, but your singular focus on really serving the customers in this community and serving them well has just been a real inspiration to work with you and work under you. I appreciate your mentorship over the years, the guidance you provided. You definitely leave some big shoes to fill, but I'm looking forward to the challenges and looking forward to carry on in the direction that you've set for this department.
Thank you, Scott. You got this. I know that Special Districts is in good hands.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Anita, go ahead.
Thank you. Hi, Jan. I can't believe you're getting out of here ahead of me. I thought there was a permission thing going on there, but anyway, I've enjoyed working with you. As you know, we've had some real Gordian knot kind of problems over the years, and your attitude has always been, we'll find a way to make this happen, to make this work. It's always been very much appreciated. Thank you, and enjoy the heck out of your retirement.
Thank you, Anita, and I really appreciate all your support over the years. You kept me out of trouble.
We kept each other.
Okay, if there are no more comments, we're going to go ahead and bring it back to the board, and I will, Supervisor Brown, would you like to close out with any comments, or?
Well, no. I think I, stated mine up front. I just,
Okay.
those times after the Valley Fire, being the first real disaster we had, we spent a lot of time together and we kicked around a lot of ideas, and it's always easy for us as board members to come up with ideas, but then it takes somebody like Jan and the rest and her crew to actually implement them and then amaze all of us, because that wasn't any I had no idea just how good it would turn out. So I appreciate her so much.
Thank you, Rob.
Okay. All right, Jan, thank you very much. And, enjoy your retirement. Enjoy this time. You've earned it. So thank you.
Thank you all.
Okay, with that, we're going to go ahead and move on to our next, our 6.3 item, our 9:15 a.m. item, a presentation of a proclamation for Calpine Corporation, the Geysers 60 Years of Power. I see we have on a representative from Calpine, Danielle.
I have this proclamation. Yeah, I have this proclamation as well, if you'd like for me to read it.
Absolutely, Supervisor Brown, please.
Okay, and I think Danielle's on. I thought I saw her on.
Yes, she is on there.
Earlier there, okay.
Well, I'm here. They took my video away, and
Jake,
can hear me.
Jake, can you get the video back for Danielle, please?
Maybe trade her for Moke.
You turn it off, but she should be able to turn it back on.
Trade her for Bruno and I.
It says you cannot start your video because the host has stopped it.
Oh, okay. Here you go. Sorry about that.
I also was trying to raise my hand to speak up for Jan. Jan, I'm going to miss you. You've been awesome. You've been awesome to work with. And just did a lot for the geothermal community and keeping the community connected. So I, just wanted to chime in there.
Yeah, thank you for that, Danielle. I know you guys worked really close together. But on behalf of the Board of Supervisors, I'd like to offer this proclamation recognizing Calpine Corporation and the Geysers for 60 years of power. Like Nancy Pelosi, I guess. I don't know if that's appropriate, 60 years of power, I don't know. Anyway, whereas the year 2020 marks 60th anniversary of commercial geothermal power production at the Geysers, the world's largest geothermal power resource located in the Mayacamas Mountains of Lake County. And whereas Calpine's fleet of 78 power plants represent nearly 26,000 megawatts of generation capacity of clean, cost-effective, reliable, and fuel-efficient electricity to communities in 22 U.S. states, Canada, and Mexico. And whereas at the Geysers is the largest producing geothermal field in the world, and Calpine is the nation's largest renewable geothermal power producer, operating 13 geothermal power plants, generating up to 725 megawatts of green baseload energy around the clock. And whereas Calpine's renewable geothermal electrical generation at the Geysers comprises 9% of California's total renewable generation, there's a couple of typos here we'll have to fix. It meets the typical power needs of Lake, Sonoma, and Mendocino counties, as well as a portion of the power needs for Marin and Napa counties. And whereas through innovation, Calpine's consolidation, integration of the steam fields and power plants at the Geysers by using a natural, clean energy source, heat from the steam produced 1.5 miles below the Earth's surface to produce electricity that is helping to meet California's bold goal for reducing greenhouse gas emissions. And whereas Calpine's operation at the Geysers employs over 300 people, a majority of which reside in Lake County and with about 150 full-time contractor jobs, contributing significantly to the local economy through property taxes, royalties, goods, and services. And whereas Calpine takes seriously its role as a community member by supporting local emergency response units, helping area organizations, charities, schools, and maintaining a visitor center available for community events and meetings, helping draw tourists to the area and educating the public on the benefits of geothermal power. And whereas Calpine, having teamed with Lake County to build the nation's first recycling water to power project, the Southeast Geysers Affluent Pipeline, followed by the Santa Rosa Recharge Geysers Pipeline project, provided an environmentally responsible way to dispose of treated recycled water while preventing its discharge into local rivers and lakes, while providing a sustainable source of steam for Calpine's power operations that has helped sustain generation capacity at the Geysers. And whereas Calpine has achieved many noteworthy environmental, production, and operational awards for its ongoing commitment to safety and the environment and its excellence in lease maintenance in the Geysers. Be it proclaimed that the Lake County Board of Supervisors congratulates Calpine Corporation on its commitment to environmentally responsible power production, its outstanding financial and volunteer contributions to our area communities in which it operates, and the innovation, professionalism, and expertise of its employees who work hard daily to ensure the sustainability of the Geysers and continuation of green geothermal power production in Lake County for years to come. Passed and adopted this first day of December 2020.
Excellent. Okay, Danielle, would you like to say some things?
I would just like to say that it's an honor to accept this on behalf of the hardworking team at the Geysers. And, a few comments from our management team is that we really appreciate working with everyone at the county. It's definitely an interesting time in the energy markets, and all of the support we get in Lake County is just really appreciated. And most of our employees live in Lake County, so it's really great to be engaged and active with the county, and we're honored to receive this proclamation. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Danielle. I would like to just say a couple of words. Obviously, I had the honor to, obviously participate in the 60-year film. I know that you guys did on that to honor the Calpine Geysers. And as you spoke, a lot of folks are multi-generational families that live in South County that have worked there. And you provide great opportunities, obviously, and all that money is reinvested in our community. I know that what you guys do for fundraising and donations to our community is just above and beyond. So I just want to thank you very much from the Lake County Board of Supervisors and myself as a District 1 Supervisor for your involvement in our community and the opportunities that you bring for employment. So thank you. I hope we get another 60 years, and we're talking 120 years, and the next generations are given the same praise that is being given now. So thank you very much. Supervisor Scott?
I would just like to also echo that. We really appreciate, I don't know if the community really sees what Calpine does for Lake County, but you guys are everywhere helping out every nonprofit, people in need, fundraisers. It's just amazing how much you help out our community, and I just really appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Any more comments from board members?
Yeah, I'll echo what the other supervisor had mentioned, and also what I really appreciated was on my tour, just the availability and the every question that I had, it was just a explanation that needed to be told, and I really appreciate that type of transparency. And not only that, but the community effort, the community fundraising and whatnot. That's very important to the county.
Okay.
I know I got to read the
Brown.
Yeah, I got to read the proclamation, so I got to say some of it, but it's been a real experience and honor for me to over the years be able to work with Danielle specifically. Calpine's great, and they're only as good as the people that work for them and the representation that they have. And I can't even, if you were to put somebody in a room and try to imagine a person that could represent your company, you'd never come up with anything better than what they've done with Danielle. I think she's done a fabulous job, and the community is so much better for her efforts and theirs as well. So thank you, Danielle, for all your commitment.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and open it up and see if we have any other public comment at this point. Jake, did you open the room?
Yes, I've sent a mute request out to the Zoom floor. If you'd like to make a comment, please unmute and state your first and last name.
Hi, this is Jan, and I just wanted to say, having worked with the Geothermal Committee and the Seismic Monitoring Advisory Board, I've been able to see firsthand what Calpine, the generosity that they give to this county, and I am so impressed. I mean, Calpine really is the gem of the county, and Danielle, you've been such a pleasure and actually a good friend to work with, and I thank you for everything.
Okay, Sheriff Martin?
Yes, thank you. I've also had the pleasure of working with Calpine and Danielle over the years. I echo exactly what Jan says. What a great partner to have in this community. If you've ever had the opportunity to go up and take, a lot of people on this call have had the opportunity to go up and take a tour of the geysers up there. It's pretty impressive what's happening up there. Their safety is second to none. Their partnership with the community, we've had National Night Out events that were hosted there at the Calpine Visitor Center. They're consistent supporters of first responders here in Lake County. And I want to thank Calpine and Danielle on behalf of the Sheriff's Office for everything they do for Lake County.
Thank you.
Okay. We're going to go ahead and close it up then, Jake, and we'll bring it back to the board for any final comments. All right. Danielle, thank you very much. And we're going to go ahead and move forward with our next item. Thank you. Okay, we're going to go ahead and move to our 6.4 item, our 9:20 a.m. item, consideration of an update on COVID-19. Dr. Pace?
Hi, good morning.
Morning.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Supervisors. Gary Pace doing the COVID update. So today we have a total of 951 cases, which is up quite a bit. It's up 65 from last Wednesday. So this is a big increase for us. We have had a total of 20 people pass away now. The most recent person passed away several days ago. Was over 65, had other medical conditions, but was COVID positive and was having some COVID symptoms. We currently have 12 people in the hospital. 4 of them are local. 8 of them have been transferred out of the area, which is significant. Normally we have, typically 3 to 4. We've been as high as 6 Lake County residents that are hospitalized, but now we're double that. And this is going to be significant as we end up talking, because we're seeing a lot of rise throughout the state and throughout the country. And it's becoming a very concerning situation. The leaders in the state, public health and in the hospital associations are quite concerned about what they see coming and what they see coming in the next couple weeks. Currently, our case rate is 11 per 100,000, which is, it was like 5 a couple weeks ago, so it's a little over double that. Our test positivity rate has increased to 4.9. That's still in a pretty good range. So as people are probably aware, we moved into the purple tier this last Sunday, 2 days ago. First time we've really been there since the very beginning of this pandemic back in March and April, when we were in the sort of shelter in place mode. Once they moved to the tier system, I believe it was May, we've been in the red tier the whole time since then. And so this is the first time we've really had to go backwards and do the things that are required. And so just to kind of quickly review what happens when you go into purple, indoor dining is no longer permitted at restaurants. Indoor worship services at churches are no longer permitted. They all need to be outdoors. Gyms and exercise classes are not permitted indoors. They need to be outdoors as well. Schools that have not opened prior to that point cannot open now. If they were open previously, they can continue being open. There is an exemption for elementary schools. They have to go through a waiver process, a whole paperwork process. And there's now kind of a statewide, they call it a modified shelter in place that starts at 10 o'clock at night, goes till 5 in the morning, where people are supposed to stay in their home except for essential business. So you shouldn't be out of the house between 10 at night to 5 in the morning for any kind of non-essential business. All these are attempts to try to decrease the kind of activity that seems to lead to transmission. So so in the state now, 99% of the state's population is in the purple tier. There's like 6 or 7 counties that are that haven't moved in the purple tier, but they're very small counties, most of them on the east, except for I think San Francisco or Marin. One of those is moving that way, but hasn't gone there yet. So again, we're seeing a significant increase locally and around the state, and there's a lot of work going on to how to stop this surge. In just a second, Sarah, our epidemiologist, is going to speak. Well, why don't we have her come on now? She will give some of the specific data, and then I'll come back and talk about everything else. So Sarah, if you can come on there.
Great, thank you. Good morning, everyone. I'm gonna share.
Good morning, Sarah.
Good morning. May I share my screen?
Yes, if you can go ahead.
Great.
And maybe talk a little louder, Sarah.
Okay.
Jake, you'll make that possible? There we go. Thank you.
Can you all hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, great. Just wanted to highlight what's happening at the state level and then what we're seeing in Lake County in terms of new cases, the increase in cases, and then the impact statewide on the healthcare system. I think this gives good context to understand why the state called what they're calling the emergency break over the weekend to try to reduce further transmission. So here we're looking at the number of new cases in California since the beginning of the pandemic. And you can see that we've had this dramatic increase since sort of mid to late October. And we're now at a high of about almost 15,000 cases a day, which is significantly higher than about the 10,000 cases we saw in the summer. We see a similar rise in Lake County here. Looking at the week of October 18th and October 25th is when we started to see the increase in cases locally. A couple points on our epi curve here is that I have these gray bars because data are still coming in as tests come in, so we'll likely see some movement here. And then this purple line is when we exceed 43 cases a week, that's what puts us into the purple tier. So that's an important threshold for us here in Lake County. And why, in a large part, why the state pulled the emergency brake is due to this trend line right here. We're looking on the left. This is the number of hospitalized patients at the state level. And again, we see hospitalizations trail new cases by about 2 weeks. So we start to see in early November at the state level, the dramatic increase in hospitalized patients. At the state level, they estimate that about 12% of cases become infected, become hospitalized. In Lake, we've been a little bit lower, about 7% of known cases have been hospitalized. But again, just going back to our increase here and increase at the state level, really anticipating this. We start to see in early November at the state level, the dramatic increase. On the right, just of note, is at the state level, the number of ICU beds available. So that's been declining as well as we head into December. Just quickly, this is zooming in on the previous graph. This was shared by the California Department of Public Health yesterday. Here's the increase in hospitalizations over the last 2 weeks of November. So current projections put us in a pretty dire situation in terms of healthcare capacity in December. Here's the same time period looking at the number of ICU admissions. And so it was pretty much looking at these data and then these projections that came out with the state yesterday of why there's been a lot of movement in terms of trying to reduce transmission. So here we're looking at the percent of ICU beds currently occupied and then the projected total by Christmas Eve. And you can see regionally for us here in Northern California and the neighboring greater Sacramento and Bay Area, that in December we will be at capacity. So just to go back to the epi curve here in Lake County, we've increased fairly dramatically since mid to late October. And where I think what we know and where I think we need the opportunity to focus is reducing transmission in sort of 4 key settings. About 1 in 3 cases we believe became infected through household transmission. About 30% of cases in Lake County we believe have been infected through community transmission. I'm going to briefly explain the difference here. So this 6% are cases who say, yes, I've had known contact, close contact with someone who tested positive, and that was out in a community setting. And then this 24% of people are cases who say, no, I've had no close contact with a known case, or, I don't know, but have ruled out any other sort of risk factors or potential exposures like congregate living settings, which make up about 22% of our cases, and workplace contact, which makes up about 1 in 10 of our cases. So it's these 4 settings that are really critical to prevent new infections. And what I just want to say, well, household, transmission is the leading setting, 1 out of 3. It's in these 3 settings that's how it gets introduced into the household, right? Someone gets sick in a community setting, or they get sick at work, they work in a congregate living setting, and then they go back home, or they get sick at their workplace, get infected at their workplace, and then come back home. So really, it can be really challenging to prevent transmission once it's introduced into the household. And of course, there's many things we can do, intervene at this point, but it's cases that bring it into the household that we can really focus on prevention and reducing transmission. So I did want to say, there have been a lot of questions, good questions about gatherings and how that's a conversation happening throughout the state and nationwide. And it's really challenging to tell. About 10% of cases report having attended a gathering in the 14 days prior to known infection. And it's really a mix of types of gatherings. We're seeing, a handful or smaller social gatherings among friends, a handful smaller, what are called family dinners with multiple households. We see a couple, potential exposures at restaurants, some travel. So it's really sort of a hot spot. The way I see it, when we think about our community transmission, it's more like spot fires rather than one single setting, which of course makes the intervention point more challenging. But I really think we're seeing it across sort of different settings within the community. So I'll stop there. Dr. Pace, do you want to jump in?
Yeah, so maybe I'll come back in, and then I'm sure people are going to have some questions for Sarah afterwards, but thank you very much for that. So, again, to kind of give a little more overview about what we're seeing in the community right now, we do have an outbreak in the jail. It seems to be reasonably well controlled at this point. There's a lot of work going into separating people out, and which is a real challenge in the jail because there's just not a whole lot of space. We've had the state infection control experts come in and talk with us and give recommendations, and I think the sheriff's staff is doing a great job there to try to keep things under control. And so far, we're doing pretty good. It's not eliminated yet, but we're not seeing explosive growth of cases that you see in other places around. I believe there's only been one person that's gone to the hospital and they've recovered and gone back. So we've not seen some of the terrible things that you see that we've seen in other places around the state. There's a large outbreak now in the Native American community that happened at a large gathering. And so we're working with the tribal community, and we had a meeting with the Indian Health Service yesterday trying to get in front of this. The Native American community is very vulnerable. We've seen some really bad outbreaks in different places around the country. So this is a real serious thing for us. And we're having a meeting again this afternoon to try to make plans to try to get on top of this. There's also several businesses are having positive tests, and I think one of the things that Sarah pointed out about the community transmission is very likely a lot of that is in businesses as well. People don't really know, the ones where they don't really know, but that they probably got it out in the community someplace. Any place where people are gathering is where you're going to see it. Anytime you're having contact with people that are not from your household, there's some risk. And so this is part of what we're seeing. And so the businesses, for the most part, have been quite cooperative. They work with us when there is a case identified in the business. We will work with them about identifying who's been in contact, staff and public, if that's possible. And then oftentimes, especially the food places, will close for a while and do some disinfection. And then if certain staff need to be sent home, they send them home. And so it's a whole process that goes on here. A lot of work behind the scenes going on to keep things safe. And we really appreciate the businesses that have been really cooperative around this. There's also been some cases in the schools. There's been no significant outbreaks at this point, but cases do pop up, and then it's the same process of going in and trying to identify the contacts and have those people stay home and all that. So it's just I think this is going to be part of what we're going to be working with in the coming months. Everybody on the call probably is going to know people that turn positive and have to figure out what your risk is and how to take the steps to keep people safe by not going out into public and everything. So just now to kind of go into the response part a little bit, we've talked a lot about the disparity issues here in the past. And one of the things we're seeing is some of these dynamics are shifting a little bit. Before we were seeing a really big surge in cases in the Latino community. I think that's changing now. So before it was almost 50% of the cases were in the Latino community. In the last month or so, it's gone down to 27%, which is a big drop. And it's really nothing that we've done at this point. We're trying to get a plan together for that, and we're in the process of working on that. But it's I think it's the change in the agricultural season, and probably some people going back to Mexico for the holidays and different things. So, but that's definitely dropped off, and we're seeing a significant improvement. In the white community, it's gone up from 33% of the cases to 46% of the cases. So we're definitely seeing a rise in the percentage of cases in the white community. And then it's also a rise in the Native American community. That went from like 3 or 4% of the cases up to 9% of the cases. And that was before this outbreak. So I'm sure we're going to see a big rise in that. So in terms of addressing the disparities, there is money that's coming in from some of the state and federal funds that is going to be directed towards addressing these disparities, these health disparities, and our RFPs are being written. They should be going out this afternoon. So if people are interested in helping be part of the solution to addressing some of these health disparities, we are putting out a request for proposals to help us address that. And they should be going out today. So hopefully by the first of the year, we should be actually getting some real solutions. Until that point, we're kind of running as fast as we can to try to help address these things as they go. So in terms of the testing, we are continuing with the testing. Last week, a couple of days, they were closed because of the holidays, of course. We are shifting the sites around a little bit because of the weather. And so people need to kind of check in and see about, make sure the sites, if you went to one place last time in Lakeport, it's going to be at a different place next time you go. So just look on the website about that. We do have these Binax Now tests, these are the antigen tests with the rapid turnaround. We've gotten several thousand from the state at this point. And so we're trying to distribute them to where they can be used well. These are particularly good, like in the outbreak in the Native community, we did a testing site where we used a bunch of these where we can find out right then if people are positive or not. And it helps us to try to contain the outbreaks once they go. So we do have some of those. If some of the community partners are interested in that, they can talk to us about it. In terms of the contact tracing, because of the big rise in cases now, we're no longer able to keep up and do everything that we've been doing up to this point. So since March, we've been able, with the kind of diligent work of the nurses and with some help from the state and some volunteers, we've been able to really keep up and contact people pretty much within 24 hours and talk to them about who they've been in contact with and what their symptoms are and try to address that. Now we're having to back off a little bit just because we're not able to keep up. There's so many cases, and we're trying to prioritize the folks that are healthcare workers or in teachers in schools or people that are in the more risky situations that we want to do that. People may notice that if they do get contacted by us, they may be getting like a text or an email with a survey. Please fill that out and send that information in so that it basically streamlines the process. It's not a spam. It's the health department trying to reach you to streamline the process, because before there would be, an extensive interview to try to get all this information. And now, because of just inability to keep up, we're going to be using some of these other strategies. The housing issues continue to evolve. The Elijah House over at the old juvenile hall is working well. They're pretty much full up all the time now. They've recently had somebody graduate that got a job and got out. So really seeing some good success there. The Hope Center, I believe, is opening December 8th if they get all their approvals and everything through. So they're very close. It's just final inspections and all that kind of thing. The Warming Center is working to try to provide the service for, especially during difficult weather and bad weather. They've started some training and they've done the first phase of the training. They're having a little trouble getting a location. And so their model that they're thinking about doing is doing a pop-up strategy when the weather drops below, I guess, freezing. And they're projecting that the next date that the first date that they're seeing the projection for the weather to be that bad is 23rd of December. So they're kind of planning for a pop-up at that time. But so, I mean, part of the question is just, how, you know, I guess there will be some discussion at some point about pop-ups, sites. Are those going to be adequate? What about the environmental inspections and all that? And then the other thing is location. They're having trouble finding a consistent location. And so if anybody has ideas about that, they should get in touch with the health department or Pastor Shannon, because this is a really important service. The homeless community is vulnerable this time of year all the time, but especially with COVID. And so having a good solid site where people can stay warm and get out of the elements and also stay safe is really important. So the next thing on my list is to talk a little bit about enforcement. We did have the compliance officer ordinance is moving forward now. We are in the process of trying to hire 2 people part-time to work with the business community and to work with the community at large about how to comply with the orders. They're going to be working through code enforcement, and but now there's some kind of discussions with the unions, and it's kind of working through the HR process right now. So we're hoping that those folks will be available and able to help after the first of the year. You know, this is just the process with all these things. Talking a little bit about the vaccines, the COVID vaccine is moving along. There's 2 of them that have been sent to the FDA for emergency use authorization. The hope is that some of the shipments are going to be occurring by mid-December. The way that, and there's a lot of planning going on statewide and locally about how that's going to get distributed. The idea is there's going to be not nearly enough vaccine for probably several months. So the first phase of it is going to be mainly geared towards healthcare workers so that we can keep the hospitals and the clinics running during this difficult time that we're entering into here. And so both the hospitals are signed up and are going to be conduits for these vaccines coming in. The health department may end up doing some of them, but there's some logistical challenges with special freezers needed and big lots of shipment. But we are in the process of working with that. But they should be at least some vaccines should be coming into the county by within a couple of weeks that will be targeted mainly for the healthcare workers. But I think by the time really that the vaccine is going to be available for the general public, it's probably going to be late spring kind of time. You know, they sort of have these sort of tiers. The healthcare workers are the first tier, and then the people in the long-term care facilities are the second tier, essential workers, and then the third tier is going to be people with chronic medical conditions and the folks 65 and older who are most vulnerable. By the time you get through all those people that want to get vaccinated, and we still have enough supply, it's probably going to be, you know, April or May. And I'm expecting that really we'll probably be seeing some impact on the community transmission by next summer. So, yeah, I want to talk a bit about the surge. So Sarah was kind of pointing out some of the issues around hospital capacity and things like that. This is really the biggest concern right now in terms of planning for how to respond to the pandemic. And this is really a lot of what's behind the going to the purple tier, trying to put interventions in place that slow the transmission of the virus in the public. Because if you look at those graphs, what they're really projecting is that, you know, the infection that's already in the community now is going to show up in hospitalizations in 2 weeks. So there's really nothing we can do about what's going to happen in 2 weeks. But what we do now will affect 3 weeks and 4 weeks down the road. So we have to sort of try to stay in front of it, because if we wait too long, till the ICU's filled up, and then we say, oh, we really need to do something. It's going to go 2 more weeks of a really worsening situation. So the local hospitals have been very forward thinking about this and doing a lot of planning, as have the clinics. Tribal Health has done a great job in terms of planning for this, and has the other clinics as well. So we're in a situation where people have done some planning. The model before had been to use regional centers. So the state had set up this sleep center place down in Sacramento. There's other places around the state that are big pavilions. You know, if you think about what you saw in New York City, where they had some of these huge pavilions that were set up as kind of low-level hospitals, that was sort of the plan that the state did back in April or May. I think they didn't end up getting used that much, and there was a big expense. And so this time they're a little reluctant to go that route. They were talking about using the sleep train center. Now there's some talk that they're going to hold off on that. They're sort of available if it really gets bad, but they're trying not to set it up. There's also the issue is space, supplies. Both of those are manageable at this point. The third issue is staffing. And staffing is going to be the biggest challenge. It's going to be a challenge for us in Lake County. It's going to be a challenge for us statewide. And so, you know, the plan right now is that the local facilities can expand to some extent and probably double ICU capacity a little bit more, and do some expansion of the med-surg beds as well. Typically what happens is both these hospitals run pretty full most of the time, and they tend to send people out regionally. Adventist in St. Helena has been closed because of the fire damage. They are planning to be open as of the 8th of December, and as long as inspections and everything goes okay. So that's just a week now. So that's very good news for us, because they're a big resource for us. But really thinking about how to transport people out and how to do the plans as these other locations are getting filled up is a big deal. LA right now is they're concerned that their hospitals are going to be overwhelmed in 2 weeks. That's sort of their current projection. So they've set up a situation where they're going even further than the state tier system is, and they've banned outdoor dining at this point. They're not permitting outdoor gatherings. They're really shutting down more because they're in this mode of being very, very concerned about what's coming by the projections. For us around here in Sonoma County, the hospitals seem to be doing okay. There's been some reports that there's been some staffing shortages, but for the most part, in terms of occupancy, they've been doing okay. And at this point, I haven't really heard the hospitals talking much locally about discontinuing elective surgeries or other things like that, like they did back in March and April. So, you know, I think that's going to be one of the things that when the capacity starts filling up more and people start getting more anxious, that they'll probably be starting to discontinue some of those more elective things that can be held off. So we're having a surge planning session tomorrow with the local hospitals and with the EMS, because transport's going to be an issue as well. You know, the question is going to be, how much can we manage at home versus how much can we ship people out to other areas, and then where the state's going to be show up with these alternate care sites like the sleep train center or something like that. So it's you know, a very complex thing, and I think we sort of thought maybe some of this was going to be happening back in March and April, and it didn't turn out to be that way, fortunately. And we're in a similar situation now. It's accelerating more quickly. And so we're definitely concerned that things are going to be going that direction. And part of what's being done for that is these interventions, decreasing the amount of movement around society, in the businesses, in the churches, in the restaurants, these kind of things, to try to slow down the transmission. When you see what's happened over in Europe and other places, when they really put these strong interventions in place, the curves drop off pretty dramatically. And right now, all we're seeing is the curves going up. So, you know, just to talk about the rationale for why this stuff is being done this way. So the last little piece I just want to say is that, you know, we're doing the surge planning. We're working on that we are now in the purple tier, which is, and I suspect we're probably going to be here for a couple months. So I really encourage, it's not, we have to be here for a minimum of 3 weeks, but if things change for the better, we can get out in 3 weeks. But realistically, I think people ought to really kind of plan for a couple month process. And I think probably in the coming days to weeks, we're going to be seeing more restrictions being placed on folks to try to slow the transmission, to try to keep the hospitals from getting overwhelmed, to try to try to slow down the suffering and the loss of life that could be coming. And these are the tools that we have in place. So I know this is a really hard thing for people to hear, and it's very frustrating at this point, 9 months into this pandemic, to have to be revisiting this at this point. But that's basically what we're confronted with right now. And there's been some talk about, in the governor's press conference yesterday, he was talking a lot about how to help businesses, to help keep them alive through this next couple months. And they're working on some funding possibilities and things like that. So I really encourage people to work. The Economic Development Council here and is working on some of these things. And so the more people can get together and reach out and try to figure out how to get through this next couple of months is a good thing. I think really, one other thing is just to mention is the schools. So the schools have been making plans to open, and while we were in the red, they could open, but now we're in the purple. They're not going to be able to do that unless the ones that are already open can continue going. There's definitely a push kind of statewide and nationally to support schools being open, especially the elementary schools. That seems like the outbreaks are less in the schools than we initially were worried about, especially K through 6. So, we will continue to try to support getting kids back into school as possible. I think this next month is going to be just a really tough time, and probably not the right time to think about making any big changes. And then the last thing is the way that we will get through this. This is going to end, and it's we kind of anticipated it coming this way over the last 6 months. If you look back at some of the things that I've talked about, it's really anticipating that come wintertime, late fall, winter, when it starts getting cold and people go inside and the flu season starts, it could all get pretty tough. And here we are. And but in a couple months, I think we're going to be out the other side. So I think if people can really just kind of take this, deal with this challenge like they've dealt with the other challenges of fires and other things, and just kind of stay home, stay close, buckle your seatbelts, and really try to buckle down and not push the edge, not try to slip away and do things that you could get away with before, because it won't work that same way now. And then, in a couple months, we'll be able to come back out of this, and the vaccine will start be getting more available. And I think by summertime, we're going to be seeing a really different situation. And so if we can just get through this winter and keep everybody alive, that's really the goal here, and keep the businesses alive as well. So that's all for me. Thanks.
Sure, thank you, Dr. Pace. Supervisor Scott?
Thank you, Dr. Pace, for your update. I just have a couple questions for you. You stated that the county now has some fast turnaround tests. How effective are those compared to the other tests that we do?
So, yeah, there's 3 levels of tests now. So there's the PCR tests that we mail out. Those are considered the best. Those are considered the most accurate. They take, a couple days to get the results. You have to go get done either by your medical provider or at the testing site. It's kind of a hassle. The second test is the rapid turnaround test that we've had available now for 6 months or so, the Abbott machine that they have at Tribal Health, they have at Adventist Hospital, a couple places. Those are the ones that take about a half hour. Those are similar to the PCR tests in the way they work. And so those have a similar accuracy. The one we have now, this Binax test, and there's other ones. These are called the antigen tests. So these are different technology, and they're not as accurate. Usually if they test positive, they're correct. If they test negative, they sometimes have false negatives. So we're usually trying to use them when somebody's either symptomatic or in an outbreak situation. I think these are probably going to become available to the public before too much longer. You'll be able to get it and do it to your kids at home and find out in 15 minutes whether they're actively contagious or not. This tends to pick up when you have a higher level of virus, and so the people that are really contagious usually turn positive. Right now, it's not available to the public, but we have quite a bit of it, and so the way we're thinking about using it is in the nursing home. If somebody's symptomatic, do they have COVID or do they have a cold? Well, if you test with this, it gives you some information. Or a kid at school, or a firefighter. I mean, so it really helps with decision making in real time, and then usually we back it up with the mail out one as well.
Right. And then my next question, you're saying with the health department is now doing track and tracing, that they're sending text messages or emails, and that it's not spam. Is there a certain email or a certain number that people can look for to know that that's, this is real and it's not spam?
Yeah, it's a good question. Let me, we're just in the process of doing this right now. So, I mean, it's just turned over. Really, as of Thanksgiving, we were up to date, and now we're underwater now. So let's see if somebody answers my,
okay.
If Carolyn or somebody answers that.
And then I know you touched on it a little bit. The state has talked about a deep purple. Do we kind of know what that might look like? I know it's going to be more restrictive, but do we have any idea what deep purple tier might look like?
They haven't really been talking too much about that. I think the signs we can, so they haven't been very transparent about that for obvious reasons, because everybody will push back. I think if you look at LA, or if you think back towards the shelter in place back in March or April, there's going to be some hints there. I think they've learned some lessons. So like if you look, basically, again, what we're talking about is not having people outside of your household come together. Schools seem to be the exception, especially with younger kids. But so anything that so going out and hiking or going out on the lake in your boat is probably okay. Going to a big outdoor church gathering with 30 to 50 people is probably not as good an idea. So, LA, like I said, they've eliminated outdoor dining. I think, and how long it's going to last, we don't really know. They're probably, it would be something like a month. And then if the curve shifts, then they can back off from some of these things. But I would suspect it's going to be outdoor dining, any kind of gatherings, probably any out of the household gathering. So it'll feel a little bit like it did back in March and April, but they're going to let people go outside more. It's not going to be as completely shut down, I think, because I think they really tried to learn the lesson from that. I think the other thing is there's a discussion I've been hearing about why they let the large box stores stay open, but they did not allow the smaller mom and pop retail stores to stay open. And so is there a way to allow all the stores to stay open to some extent where they do more capacity? What's a safe capacity? What's a not safe capacity, as opposed to this essential, non-essential thing? These are the discussions that they're trying to figure out how to do. We're kind of all making this up as best we can as we go, and trying to be as fair and even-handed as possible. But something's cooking, and I think it's probably going to come out before the end of the week. I'm not sure what it is.
Okay. And then with the COVID vaccine, do we have an idea of how many we are going to get? Are they doing it by population? Are they doing it by who you have in your community? How are they going to be distributed?
Well, so at this point, we don't even know. There's no vaccine that's even approved at this point. So we don't even know what it is or how much there is. They are working hard. The CDC and the state level are working hard to have clear guidelines about it. I think a lot of it's going to be population-based and also equity-based. So the folks that have the more cases and the more cases in the disadvantaged communities are probably going to get a little bit more vaccine. I suspect, again, for us, it's going to be, for the first several months, it's probably going to be mainly enough for the healthcare workers, probably EMS, and probably the folks in the clinics and the nursing homes but not before. It's probably going to be, a couple months before we're even able to give it to the residents of the nursing homes and then the essential workers. And so it's going to take a while to roll all this out. And I think probably in the beginning, I'm sure Santa Clara County is going to get a lot more than Lake County. That's just the reality of it. And
That's all my questions. Thank you.
Any other questions from board members? Supervisor Sabatier?
Yes, thank you for the update, Dr. Pace. Wanted to ask real quick, how many total cases have we had in the jail outbreak thus far?
I believe it's about 30.
And that's
there's been a couple
staff and
different
inmates?
pods. These are inmates. And then there's been about 2 or 3 staff that have been identified. Most of the ones that have been most of the inmates that have been identified have now come off of the isolation and quarantine. And, but I think there's still maybe 10 or so that are still positive.
Okay.
Dr. Pace, does that include the cases of those that were released when they had COVID?
Well, the only ones I'm aware of, there's a couple of them that they picked up in booking that got identified as positive and then didn't enter the jail. There were some they were talking about at one point, releasing a few folks that then their test turned positive, and so they didn't release them. They kept them in. So
it's kind of a more or less type number then, probably. We're not exactly sure, because I know there was one guy from Florida that was arrested and had COVID, and I don't remember if the test came back after he was released or he was released after he was found out. I don't remember, but I know there's been
that case he was gone before we got the positive test, and that's
And the reason for my question is just to kind of get an idea of the total number of cases we've seen in the last few weeks, which has been the timeline as well for the outbreak for the jail, versus what's truly happening within our community. There's definitely a point of connection between those in the jail, including our correctional officers and our community, but it's not the same level. It's similar to congregate living situations such as our skilled nurse facility, where we can really see it growing and growing rapidly, exponentially in those facilities because of the close proximity that they live in. So I was just curious about that. And I just have a general question about and this has nothing to do with our county, but a general question about vaccinations. Vaccination is not like you have a force field around your body and it bounces off and you never get it. You actually have the ability to carry the virus. The virus does not do any, because of the vaccination, the virus does not harm you in the same way, or does not harm you at all, depending on the quality of the vaccination. But you still have the potential to pass the virus even if you have a vaccination. Am I correct on that?
Well, different vaccines work different ways, and so that's an outstanding question about this vaccine. They've not tested that. So for this vaccine, what they've tested is people getting sick and having to be hospitalized and stuff, and they've seen a definite decrease in all that with the vaccine. They've not tested for infectivity. Is the person contagious? That's not a known thing. So this whole, hopefully the vaccine, typically vaccines will stop you from getting, you do get the virus or the bacteria enters into your body, but then your immune system fights it off and stops it. So, but not all vaccines work that way. And it is possible that you actually get the infection and it's at a low level and you can actually transmit it to other people. That question hasn't been answered yet. So a lot of this discussion about herd immunity and vaccines, we're not sure exactly how that's going to play out yet. That's part of what happens when you move a vaccine along so quickly. You know, the quickest approval of a vaccine prior to this was 4 years. And so now this has been done in whatever, 8 months. And so there's a lot of unanswered questions. There's a lot of unanswered questions about exactly how it works, how it's going to protect problems and all that. And so we'll see.
And I appreciate the answer that there's so many unknowns still with things that are moving forward so quickly. And I believe December 10th is when the FDA is looking at approving or not approving the emergency approval for the vaccinations or the vaccine to go ahead and move forward, something along that timeline. And the reason I ask about the vaccination is because in my opinion, and granted, I don't think we can deviate from what the state or the federals are going to tell us to do when they give us the vaccine. It seems to me that our skilled nurse facilities would be our number one place, since that's where we saw the biggest amount of death. And so I'm worried that, granted, I want our healthcare workers to be protected as well, but if they still have the capability, granted it's an if, to carry the virus, then that means that they're safe, but the patients that they're dealing with who might be chronically ill and very high-risk people may still be at risk as well because of that situation. So it's tough. It's tough, but thank you for the information.
Hey, any more questions from board members? Supervisor Brown?
So I know you've covered a lot of it, and I just want to go over, a couple of things. One, the percentages of the Hispanic population, I think just real quick, I think that's predictable. I think you're exactly right. After harvest, many of the transient workers have moved on and gone back to their homes, whether it be in Mexico or Central Valley or somewhere that they live in the off season. So I think that has a lot to do with it. And then the school situation has a lot to do with it too. I know in years past when I was coaching during that season, sometimes they would leave as soon as school was out and go back to Mexico, and then you'd lose half your team for months. So I know they do travel. I think that's probably has a lot to do with that. So and the other thing is, I know it's a sore subject. Certainly it is with some of the folks at the fairgrounds, but I think the fairgrounds needs to be pursued as far as, as an alternative to just a pop-up. I mean, the fairgrounds is not being used. It hasn't been used since March. Who knows when it'll be used again? And to be honest with you, the future of the fairs in California are in jeopardy to begin with. So I think taking no for an answer just because that was the answer, I think is probably letting folks off the hook. That the property is owned by us. It's not owned. It's owned by the state, the taxpayers, and I think if the state is really serious about dealing with this homeless issue during the pandemic and not causing a spread from that population or in that population, I think that's a good alternative, and I think somebody needs to really stay on top of that and go to the next level if necessary. I know the board members are open to it, and I think they should be talked to. So, or they're open to working with the community. Put it that way. So I think you really should push that. The other question I have, because this deep purple rain, whatever the hell you want to call it, but and the curfew and all that. It's affecting a lot of businesses, but one of the major industries and businesses that we haven't heard about, and I'm curious, and I was hoping that maybe Moak or Eddie could weigh in on how it's going to affect the casinos and their operations. That are they've been able to operate fortunately, and there are hundreds of employees affected, and so how does that affect them? And not just them, but their patrons. I know they're at a different level as far as requirements, but they've been affected throughout this as well. And I see this as something that we haven't talked about, and I think it's important that the community know exactly what's happening there.
Well, obviously I can speak on behalf of Middletown. We've been working obviously with Dr. Pace and the health department. We'll also be working with the governor's office. There should be a call this week that we're working. So with the new rules coming down, it's something that we are monitoring. It is going to affect us. Obviously, our is a government operation from the federal side, and we'll continue to coordinate with the governor's office on our issues. But it is currently already starting to affect us, at least for Middletown Rancheria and how we approach this. And we've been severely affected throughout this entire thing with layoffs and the potential of even more things happening at this point. So as we make decisions, we will keep Dr. Pace and our public health office informed of how we move forward. But ultimately, we will be working directly with the governor's office on what the next steps are here in this, at least for Middletown Rancheria.
Thank you. Thanks, Mo.
Supervisor Crandall? You can't unmute. You can't unmute, Jake.
There we go. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
So one thing I do know so far, from this new order given out by the state, I've seen that Upper Lake has the Upper Lake Tribe, Running Creek they're going to honor the curfew and close at 10 p.m. I'm not sure how Robinson is going to go with that yet. I haven't been on the council for about a month and a half, but what I do know is since this got somewhat worse, I know they've shut down once to get everybody tested to make sure that people were not positive of COVID. And since then, they've been operating from, I think it's 8 a.m. to 2 a.m. Or no, I think it's 12 a.m. Sorry. And I'm not sure if they're going to honor that. I think they meet tomorrow, so we'll know more after that. But it has taken a heavy effect on it. They're doing, I know in some instances they're doing like takeout orders to compensate for the restaurant situation, things like that. So then the customers, they all have to wear masks, and they've been seeming to do so. And they have security intact so that way they ensure that it's mandated. But I don't know how it looks for this next situation. I'll know next week for sure. So.
Yeah, and I can give you an update on our hours too. We are open from 10 to 2. We closed our indoor dining immediately, and we'll be looking at the hours as we move forward. And, the protocols we have in place, the one thing we do obviously is complete masking. You do not enter without a mask. The one thing I think that gives us an advantage of other opportunities too in business standpoint is we have cameras for everything. So if there are situations, we're able to track and trace and do other instances like that. But we'll continue to do everything that we can to try and survive, but also taking in the health and the safety of our community is always top of the conversation. So, that's where we are, and we will be talking directly with the governor and the governor's liaison, hopefully sometime this week. I think Wednesdays is our standing calls, so that should be happening. So, Dr. Pace?
Thank you. I appreciate that clarification. It's, we hadn't talked about it. It's, one of the largest employers in the county. I think we need to let people know. So I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thanks. I just wanted to answer a couple questions. One is with Supervisor Scott's question about the emails. The emails will come from something called Cal Connect, which is the state database so if people get an email from Cal Connect, CALCONNECT, that's what it is. It's basically trying to do some a survey interview on we have been doing in person, but now moving forward, we're probably going to be doing a lot of them by email or text. So that would be that. And then Supervisor Brown's discussion about the fairgrounds is a great one, and so I'll bring that up to Pastor Shannon. Thanks.
Supervisor Scott?
I would just like to add to the warming center, that group of people would love to do a full-time center Monday through Friday like we normally do. At this point right now, we don't have the volunteers to make that happen. That's why we really haven't pursued trying to find a building Monday through Friday, because we need at least 40 volunteers to make this happen. And we've had it in the past, and this year right now we only have 8. So there's no way we could make that happen with only 8 people. So if anybody out there is interested in volunteering to make sure that we can have a warming center open Monday through Friday to help our most vulnerable in the community, please give me a call, 849-4414, and I will get you on the list and we'll make sure this happens.
Yeah, and I would like to add to that, because I know it is really tough. You know, people mean well, they want to volunteer, they want to commit, they feel, you know, passionate about something, and then you get started, and then you look around and they're gone because they have other things in their life. It's a long-term volunteer commitment on a lot of this stuff, and this one's no different. But my point is, if you have enough volunteers to open up a pop-up, then you should have enough volunteers to open up a stick building, brick and mortar, that's already existing. In fact, you may actually keep a few of them if they're in a building that's not a tent for a sheep herder.
Okay, Supervisor Sabatier?
Yeah, one last question. Dr. Pace, wondering if it's possible to get a copy of that survey to see what it is that's being asked of folks when they're filling out the survey.
I don't know, I'll see.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any more questions from the board at this point? All right. Okay, we're going to go ahead and open it up to public comment. Jake, can you please open the room?
All right, I've sent an unmute request out to the floor. If you would like to make a comment, please unmute and state your first and last name.
If you'd like to make comment, please do so now. This is item 6.4, our update on COVID-19. Okay, Jake. Don't see any hands up. I don't hear anybody making public comment at this point, so we're going to go ahead. We are going to close the virtual room public comment. Do we have anyone in board chambers, Supervisor Sabatier?
We do not have anybody in the board chambers.
Okay, thank you. All right, we're going to close it. We're going to bring it back to the board for any final comments or questions for Dr. Pace. Supervisor Sabatier?
I just have a quick question for Jake, actually. I know when Danielle from Calpine was speaking, she said she had trouble putting her hand up. Just want to make sure that this is just a tech issue from maybe a user issue from her perspective rather than an actual tech issue with our room. Just wanted to make sure that everybody had the opportunity to raise their hand or speak if they needed to.
When there's a hand up right there.
There we go.
So when she said that, I did check my other monitor here and I was able to find the hand option. So it's still available, and I did try to reach out to her to diagnose that, but I wasn't able to come up with anything with her.
And I'm not sure if Carrie raised her hand to prove that you could raise her hand or if she has something to say.
It came up and then went down, so I think she was testing for us.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, any more questions or comments for Dr. Pace from the board? Supervisor Crandall?
Yeah, so Dr. Pace, just one last thing. Earlier when we were discussing vaccinations, and of course the first batch of vaccinations would in essence go to the healthcare workers, et cetera. Did they have any discussion possibly about teachers being on, like, not on the top of the list, but in that realm so that kids can stay in school, things like that?
Yeah, the way I've heard that discussion is teachers would be in the essential workers, which is the kind of the second tier.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, Dr. Pace, thank you very much for the update. We'll be looking forward to these, moving forward now that we're in the purple tier. So thank you very much. And just for the board's knowledge, we talked about it earlier. the recovery group. We will be meeting on a weekly basis while we move through this. So please just want to say thank you to everybody in our environmental health, public health department. I know you guys have been working diligently for months, and everyone else in the county on this issue. I know there is fatigue, but we're going to work through this, and any support you need, please do not hesitate to ask, and we'll do our best from a board standpoint to try and address those questions. So thank you, and take care, and thank you very much to our community members and business owners that have been doing this for a long time. It's a very important time at this point to do everything we can with the guidance that we do have to help us move through these next few months. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you for the update, Dr. Pace.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, we're going to move to our next item, our next agenda item, and our last agenda item on today's open calendar, and then we'll go to closed session, is item 7.2, consideration of an advisory appointment for the Calliomi Water District Board of Directors. And I know this was put on the by the clerk of the board, but I know that do we have anybody from Calliomi today on the call? I mean, on the virtual room here? I apologize. The Zoom. And it does not sound like it. Okay.
No one has, this is Jake. No one's tried to catch my attention, but I did send an unmute request out to the floor to see if anybody wanted to speak up.
Okay, obviously this isn't my district. I know that they have reached out to admin and asked to have this put on the agenda. They had missed some timelines on the appointment process, and I know they had worked with Anita to make sure that we had met the requirements to get to this to the board. So there is an appointment opportunity to the Calliomi Water District for Mr. Scott Hopkins to be added to the board of the Calliomi Water District in South County. Any questions from the board?
No questions.
Okay, seeing none, we'll go ahead and open it up for public comment. Jake, can you please open the room?
Yes, I've sent a mute request out to the floor. If you'd like to make a comment, please unmute and state your first and last name.
Okay, Jake, we're going to go ahead and close the room. We're going to bring it back to the board for action. Supervisor Sabatier, if you would please pick up the motion for me, I'd greatly appreciate it.
Okay. Mr. Chair, I move to approve the appointment for Scott Hopkins to Calliomi County Water District Board of Directors.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Okay. Supervisor Sabatier?
Aye.
Supervisor Crandall?
Yes.
Supervisor Scott?
Aye.
Supervisor Brown?
Yes.
And Supervisor Simon?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, with that, we're going to move into closed session. Our closed session items are item 8.1, public employee evaluations, title County Administrative Officer, and second title is Director of Child Support Services. That's item 8.1. Item 8.2, conference with legal counsel, significant exposure to litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9D2E3, claim of McQueen. And 8.3, conference with legal counsel, decision whether to initiate litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9D4, one potential case. And with that, we are going to go to closed session.